Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We're doing something a little bit different today. I was having to think the other day about tracks that could be coming, because I think there's one major issue with GT Sport at the moment. It's the lack of variety in the tracks. I'm finding that I'm starting to feel very repetitive in the racing that we're doing on some of these tracks, and I decided to have a little look and see what tracks have been on previous games and what real tracks aren't in this game, which I think have got a chance to come into this game. So we're going to have a little look at these tracks now, and the first track that I think possibly may come is Fuji. You know, it's been on every single GT game pretty much from early games. I didn't play GT6, it was on that obviously. I did play a GT1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and Prologue, etc. On screen at the moment this is just Project Cars 2. Obviously that game has got Fuji, and it just shows what a great track it is. I really enjoy this track. I had actually forgot a bit of the layout, it's been that long since I raced it, but watching this back really brings back some memories of I think it was Prologue that I played with Fuji on a lot of the time, and I really enjoyed this track. So hopefully, you know, some of these tracks, I'm not saying that every single one of these tracks I'm going to go through in the next 15 or so minutes is going to be coming to GT Sport, but I have a very strong feeling that quite a few will do. You know, we've already heard rumours about Deep Forest coming. Kaz has actually said that it is pretty much ready to be done. You know, they're playing it at the moment, they're just doing minor fixes, so we know that some of these original tracks are coming, and I'm guessing there's a lot more that are coming. For these real tracks though, I'm guessing they're going to concentrate on ones that they've got later models for. So Fuji, I'm not too sure. I mean, they would have had the GT6 model, whether they updated that from like the GT4 and etc, because some of the models that they did, they just revamped slightly, but there's some other tracks that we're going to go through that I think are going to be more likely to come, and I'm going to explain why when we get to them. I think there's 2 or 3 that I think are pretty much certain ones. You know, we've got some tracks that are kind of in the game in other forms, so it makes me think they're 100% going to be coming. But the first track, definitely will be looking forward to see if this track comes. I love Fuji, and I think it would make a great addition to the selection they've got now. You know, I want some more real world tracks. I like racing on tracks that real life action is going on. You know, I do like the original tracks as well, but I do prefer real life tracks, and hopefully, you know, this could be one of them tracks. Next up has to be Laguna Seeker. This is myself driving now on a Assetto Corsa. This is a setup video that we've done. If you want to check that setup out, make sure you go through to my Assetto Corsa setups. It's a really enjoyable track. This track actually suits me quite well. This is the track I have my best result on Project Cars on the NVIDIA Championship, the Esports Championship. I think I came about 3rd. It would have been higher if people weren't doing some weird cheating, but we won't talk about that now. But anyway, as you can see there, a great track on any game pretty much, and a track that will punish you. You know, you run a little bit wide on that on the sand and gravel, and you can lose control. And I think this is another track that I really would enjoy on GT Sport. I could imagine doing the GR3, GR4 races around it. It'd be really amazing. You know, going through the corkscrew and trying to really push the limit through there. And you know, it's a great track. It's such another classic track. This is a track that I would think that they've got to bring at some point. You know, it's been on pretty much, I remember this on quite a few GT games, so hopefully this will come. Again though, I'm not 100% sure on this because of how old their model of this might be. You know, they might need to make some changes, and whether their data and stuff. He seems to be a bit of a perfectionist. Obviously the developers are very much into getting everything spot on, so whether this will come is up in the air. But this is another track that's been on pretty much every GT game. It was on GT6, so there's a chance that this track could come. I'm convinced there's going to be a big update at some time in the next few months, adding a few different tracks. Whether that'll happen, I have no idea, but I've just got a really strong feeling they're trying to get a bunch of tracks ready. Next track that we're going to have a little look at, Le Mans. I think this is pretty much a certain, because what you couldn't, I mean, to add it into escapes mode and have it in the game on escapes and stuff like that, but then not to add it actually as a track playable in the game, I think would be a bit insulting. I think that they 100% will be adding this track into the game. This is obviously taken again from Project Cars 2. This is the AI driving just on 120% AI, and then driving around the track. And again, this track would be absolutely amazing on GT Sport. You know, driving the Group 1 cars here, or even the Group 2s would be amazing here also. I mean, obviously it's going to be very much a power dominated track, but the chances of getting some overtakes on here is really high. It's such an enjoyable track. I had an amazing race on iRacing on this track, where it was constantly overtaking on the straights, getting slipstreams of each other, saving fuel in the slipstream. It's just a really fun track. Obviously there'll be some cars that will be really strong here in like the GR3 and GR4 category, But I'm sure that once they've got the BOP a bit more sorted, that it'll be a bit closer. But you know, the GR3 races, you pretty much find that a lot of the top speed cars like the Corvette and the Mustang would dominate this track. But overall, this track has to come to GT Sport. I am convinced it will come to GT Sport. You know, they've got the photo mode scapes of this track on there, and I'd find it really insulting if they had that and didn't add it into the game. But this is polyphony, you know, anything's possible. They could just, you know, totally ignore it. But you know, this track was on GT6, and I'm pretty sure it was never on a previous GT game. I don't remember it being on some of the other, like GT4. I can't remember. It might have been, but you know, if it was, then that's my mistake. But they must have a fairly late model in terms of the data they have for this track. So it's a high possibility this track could come. I actually think it was on GT5. Actually, I feel like I remember it being on GT5. So maybe. It just depends how old the data is when they come to remodeling them and just like, you know, ramping them up and making them a bit better. I've seen some stuff where he's mentioned about trees on some tracks are not the right dimensions, but I really wish they would ignore all that and just, you know, just give us these tracks. I don't care if a tree is 2 foot taller than it should be or something, or, you know, not as wide as it should be. When you're racing, you're only looking at the cars on the track and the track itself. I know that a lot of people are going to say, yeah, but you know, he's a perfectionist, that's why it's so good, you know, GT and stuff. But you know, I just think they need to just be a little bit less picky in some things and give us some more tracks. You know, one thing I'm not bothered about is the cars. I hear so many people complaining about, you know, we've only got such and such cars, I want 1,000 cars. For me, I don't really care about having 1,000 cars or 500 cars. You know, I think the car selection now is really good. You've got plenty of cars on there. You're not going to get bored of the car selection. You know, if they added 500 more cars, the chances are you're probably only going to drive, you know, a tenth of them cars at most. And for me, I'd rather the tracks that we race on to have more tracks. That is a priority I think they need to work on. I think the car selection, they don't need to worry about that anymore. I just think what they should concentrate on is 100% the tracks, and I do believe there is going to be a definite focus on the tracks in the coming months. Adding in, you know, they added in Monza. That if you look at all the tracks they've added in so far, it's been tracks that were on previous games. So next track, Spa. Again, this is going to be a later model because it wasn't on. I don't remember it being on GT5, so it was probably would have been added on the GT6. So their model is going to be very late on this. So I think Le Mans and Spa are pretty much a certain. I think this track will be coming to GT Sport at some point in the future. Whether it will come in the next 4 months, 5 months or so, I'm not too sure, but I would say my guess is I'm over 80% sure that this track will arrive on GT Sport at some point in the future, because they've got the later model of the data that they took for GT6. So going by what they've said on interviews and stuff, that's how they've based their selection of tracks and stuff. And you know, they added Monza in, and that was a track that they probably had a later model from GT6 as well. They've all the tracks that they're adding have been tracks that have been in previous games, or like tracks that were added quite, you know, that they've got better models for. So hopefully we're going to get some of these tracks in. I would love Spa. Spa is probably my favourite track on any game. I love it on Project Cars. I love it more so on Assetto Corsa. Obviously this is Project Cars running at the moment in the old GT cars running around. You know, looks amazing even on Project Cars. It would look 100 times better on GT Sport. You know, the visuals on GT Sport would make it look even more amazing. I really would love this track to come on. You know, Assetto Corsa, I love this track on Assetto Corsa. The feeling you got through the chicanes, the feel of it. So hopefully GT Sport can add to that and make the visuals even better. Obviously the physics are not going to be as amazing as Assetto Corsa and stuff like that, but you know, physics are not everything. I like to have fun while I'm racing as well, and I think this track is pretty much a certain, you know, like I say, 80% sure this track will make it to GT Sport. In a year's time, we'll see if that's right. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that a track like Spa should be high on their priority list. You know, it's one of the best tracks in the world. It's a famous track. It's a track we need in GT Sport. So this is one of the tracks of the few that I said I'm pretty much sure will come on. You know, Le Mans and this, they're tracks that I'm really high on the list of what I expect. Fuji, like I said before, not too sure on that. That's one of them that just not too sure, along with Laguna Seca. I'm not too sure, but Spa I think will come. The next track I think that possibly might come, and it's probably very likely, is the Red Bull Ring, because this track got added in as DLC on GT6. it's going to be a very late model that they've got. They've probably got the most up to date out of pretty much all the tracks. So, you know, this track isn't a complicated track either. It's probably going to be a fairly simple track to get right, and it's not the longest track. So hopefully we could be looking at Red Bull Ring coming to GT Sport at some point in the future. This is one of them that I think again is fairly high up there on the percentage chance of coming to the game. I would say it's more than 50% chance of this coming to the game, but again, we have no idea with Polyphony. You know, they do some strange things, they make some strange choices, but I think that they realise that the track situation is not at the best at the moment. I'm starting to feel a bit repetitive when I'm going on and the races are like the same races you raced about 5 days ago, and it is getting a bit repetitive. You know, I know they could change the car selection, but most people want to race GR3s, like Group 3s or Group 4s. They're the cars that I do like to race as well. As you can see there, this is myself driving on a Assetto Corsa here now. Another setup that we did on the PC version that, you know, you can find the setup out in the video. I think this lap was a 128.6. It was just off the world record on the PC on the Assetto Corsa. It was a really nice setup driving the Lamborghini Hurricane GT3, and I would love to be driving these cars, you know, the GR3 cars around Red Bull Ring. It'd be an amazing track to drive them on, and hopefully this track can be added at some point in the future. This is another one, like I say, I'm pretty confident that this could be coming. I wouldn't obviously lay any bets on it because, like I say, it's Polyphony, you never know what's going to be coming. So the next track, Daytona. It's been on so many GT games. I played it a lot on GT5, and it's one of them that I think would really, you know, I'm not 100% sure about this track will be coming, but I think, you know, out of the GT6 tracks, that the proper real world tracks that were on there, this would make a great addition. You know, it's got the long oval part with like the power zone, and then this infield is really tight and twisty. So this is going to affect, it's going to have a real good BOP because you've got this section which is going to be more suited to like the cars that can handle and take corners, and then you've got the back straight which is really going to suit the power cars. You know, overall it probably would be a power track. The power cars would probably come out on top, but you're going to have a case of, if you got stuck behind a slower car, you might have struggle getting, you know, staying with it through this section, and then on the back part you might be able to overtake it. And then you got the role reversal where if you were stuck behind a power car, you'd be so struggling through this section, you know, you'd be right up behind them, not being able to make a move, but then the car will pull away from you again, then you catch up again. It makes for some really interesting racing, and it's a track that I would love to see on the game. But again, I'm not too confident this track will ever come to GT Sport. I just think there is a possibility that it might come. I'm really hoping that we get at least 3 or 4 of these tracks that I'm going to mention added in you know, over the next 6 months or even a year. I think GT Sport has got a long-term plan with the game. I feel like they've got very much a long-term plan. Obviously, this, you know, when you see that stutter on the steering wheel, this isn't me driving. This is the piece, the AI driving on Project Cars 2. So that's why the replay's a bit stuttery there. But you know, I didn't have time to go on and, you know, learn. I can't even remember half of these tracks. They're bringing back memories just watching them. You know, when I remember a GT Academy lap in a Corvette, I'm sure it was, one of the old GTs on this track, and I absolutely loved that and enjoyed doing that in one of the old ones. So you can see, you know, some of these tracks are probably more likely than others. This is one of them that you know, it's up in the air. I'm not too confident this will ever come, but I would love it to come into the game, and I think it would make a great addition. So let's have a look at the next track, Silverstone. This again is another one that I think has got more of a chance because it wasn't on GT5, it was only added in on GT6, so their data for this track will be a little bit more recent, and the track hasn't changed since obviously GT6. I don't think, you know, they've not made any alterations because it's a new track anyway. So my guess is their data for this track is going to be very recent, and it won't need much modification. So I think this is another track that could be coming, and again, I would absolutely love this. This is one of my, I really enjoy this track. It's up there with Spa in terms of when you're driving. It's a harder track than you think to overtake on because of the way the fast corners go into slow corners, and then it's the way it's done here. I remember on Project Cars, being stuck behind on the first Project Cars, being stuck behind someone that I was faster than for laps, just couldn't find a way past because of the way the track, you know, is laid out. But it is a really enjoyable track. You know, taking some of these corners flat out nearly through the corners is so enjoyable. And I would again, I would say that again, I feel pretty confident this track might arrive to GT Sport at some point in the future. This is obviously a Assetto Corsa running it now. You know, if you want to know the game, this is the AI driving it, and in the Audi R8. LMS GT3 car. So again, let's just see what happens, but I'm sure a lot of you guys would love this track on the game. I know a lot of us Brits would. You know, we love Silverstone, and I really do hope at some point they decide to add this track in. And again, I think it's up there as one of the, maybe I'd say I'm more than 50% confident this track might come. You know, they've got to be adding some tracks, because now that they've pretty much done the cars that they said they would add, you know, there will be still cars they're going to probably bring in, you know, little amounts, etc. But I'm guessing there won't be any massive updates with loads of cars, and I'm hoping now it's going to be a concentration on getting these tracks that we want in the game, that we need, especially with it being FIA licensed. You know, we need some real tracks to race these FIA races on. I know people say, yeah, we want original tracks, but I'm going to do a separate video on what tracks I would like to see from the original tracks. I think there's a few that I definitely would like, obviously like Grand Valley, I would love that, but let's get on to the next track. So we've got Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is another track which it would be amazing if it came on. It was obviously on GT5, I think it was. I remember playing on GT5 again, and I'm sure there was a GT Academy at this track. Driving a Nissan, I'm sure it was. It was fairly tricky to drive, but I remember it vaguely. I also remember it on Grid Autosport. I loved it on that game. And this is obviously on Project Cars 2, and this is the AI drive. And again, you can see this is going to be another very mix. I would say probably will dominate the power cars, but again, it's got some really fast corners and some zones where handling will take over, especially this section now where you're going instantly left and then you've got to go back right and then you go left again. This is a really fun section of track. I used to love this on Grid Autosport, racing through these corners, really fun and enjoyable. And hopefully, you know, they can add some of these tracks. You know, I would be really happy if they just added 4 of these out of these list of tracks that I'm talking about now, but you know, I'm pretty confident at least 2 or 3 of these will come on. So hopefully, let's just see what happens in the future. You know, we've not heard much from Polyphony in terms of tracks. You know, they do these interviews and they don't really give much information out. I really wish they were a bit more open in terms of their community stance on social media and other platforms like Twitter, etc., and Facebook. They need to. I feel like they need to be a bit more social network active. You know, they need to be getting us, you know, letting us, you know, tease us and stuff like that. They're just very like, oh, they tease us like a day before it's coming out, you know, maybe with a screenshot, but I just feel they could do a lot better. Next up, we have Twin Ring Montego. I haven't got any footage of this. It's on iRacing. I haven't bought this track on iRacing, so I haven't got any onboard action. But again, I remember this track off GT, and it's a great track. But again, I'm not too sure whether this track will ever come on the game. It's one of them that's probably lower down on my chances of coming on the game. But with the other games, with the other tracks, sorry, I'm sure there'll be at least 2 or 3 of these list of tracks that I've listed here that will make it onto GT Sport in the future. Anyway, guys, what I want to know from you guys is what tracks out of them ones that you'd like to see added in the future, and also what tracks you think might get added that I haven't featured there in terms of real life tracks. You know, I'm not talking about the original tracks, the real life tracks. What I try to do there is be realistic in my selection of what might come on the game. There are other tracks that I would love to come on, like Montreal and stuff like that, but I think that is very, very unlikely. Tracks like that, you know, like Zandvoort as well. I would love that track to come on GT Sport, but it's so very unlikely that it would ever come on, like Mugello as well. You know, these are tracks that I would love, and that's why I love Assetto Corsa for some of their tracks, but this is GT Sport. I find that very unlikely that them tracks will ever come. So what I've based my selection on is tracks that were on GT6, and especially tracks that were later modelled in terms of their visuals and stuff. So they would probably be easier for them to update onto GT Sport. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that quick video. We're going to be back with more, obviously, GT Sport daily races very soon. And hopefully we'll be back tomorrow with the FIA next round. I've not had much time to practice, so that should be an interesting race. Anyway, guys, make sure you sub to the channel if you haven't already subbed, and click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks again for watching, everyone.